This is Ray Phoenix, the Mexican, y tú estás escuchando Sport Guys Talking Wrestling. ¡Ánimo!
When they're not covering the sports world, they're talking about the world of professional wrestling.
It's Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Now, with Justin Simmons, here's Stu Myrick.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons joining me via phone. Justin, how are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. You know, just there's almost too much wrestling to watch nowadays.
It almost is. Yeah, we mentioned this on the radio show on the Horn. We were looking to possibly do because it's hard for us to cover AEW and NXT, the Wednesday Night Wars, because we're on Wednesday nights. So while we're on the air, it's, a little hard. Plus, we pre-record most everything. So, we don't want to wait a whole week to talk about what happened last week. So decided we'll do this little short, Wednesday Night Wars edition of the show to kind of capture what happens on Wednesday nights, because that seems to be kind of the big story, the big popular thing now. So I want to start because we have now had 3 weeks of head-to-head between All Elite Wrestling with AEW Dynamite and NXT with their show on USA Network. And Justin, give me your overall thoughts on what you've seen from the shows, concerns, pluses, minuses. What's your take on the Wednesday Night War so far?
Man, sometimes I'm not sure exactly why people tune into it. I think it's maybe usually because you have such an optimistic mindset, Stu. Sometimes I feel like I might ruin it for some of our fans out there. But in this case, I don't really see this as Wednesday Night Wars. I feel like this was something that was kind of made up by wrestling fans trying to evoke the feeling of, the golden days of TNT versus USA Network,
right, the Monday Night
Raw
Wars
versus Nitro. And I know how much we yearn for those days. We yearn for the Attitude Era and such on, but this isn't doing it for me.
Okay.
I know we're just 3 weeks in, but it's not doing it for me. I see what NXT is trying to do. That extra hour, it really seems forced. It's like they're really trying to, they're really out there trying to compete with AEW, while AEW is just out there trying to put on a show. And don't get me wrong, both have done a lot of good, and there's been some questions on both ends. But I can't say that this is a true war between WWE and AEW, because this is like soccer. It's like if the United States decide to play, really, really bad men have, but let's say they decide to play a team like Brazil. I mean, that's your third best team going against, or not third best team, but that's a sorry team going against the best team in the world. Essentially, the WWE is sending their third stringers out there to go against AEW's top line. I don't see how that's supposed to be a war.
I've heard that. I've heard that notion here lately. It's basically as we said, NXT for the longest time has been, they've been the third brand. They were the developmental brand. They put them on USA Network. They have been poised to be, on par with Raw and SmackDown, but honestly, it's not. It's the audience is different. It's a more niche kind of product. It's definitely a different look from Raw and SmackDown. A lot of people prefer it, which is great. A lot of people don't watch it because they're used to the big flashy, production of Raw and SmackDown.
It's great when the crowd's invested and they're on fire like they are at NXT takeovers. But when you look at this product and you compare it to an AEW product, just because of the arena size and the pyro and things like that, it just feels a little second rate.
And that was
goes back and it reminds you that, hey, this is really a developmental brand,
right? And that was
really
one of my first things to address. Does NXT sticking at Full Sail University, the NXT arena, is that hurting their show? Is that hurting their chances against All Elite Wrestling, who are playing? They're not playing the biggest arenas, but they are playing arenas. They're doing kind of the 7 to 10,000 seat arenas, kind of like the HEB Center here in Cedar Park. Whereas the NXT arena, quote unquote, you're talking about maybe 1,000 fans.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot would help if they just dimmed the lights and focused it more on the ring as opposed to the crowd. Like, the NWA thing works because it's invoking a certain feel of nostalgia, and just having the whole crowd out in the open, it just kind of shows you, like, hey, we don't have anything to hide. This is exactly what it's supposed to look like. But that shadow, that tinge of darkness, it's not a good look because it kind of puts them right in the middle as opposed to committing to one look or the other.
One thing that I will say NXT has done a better job with than AEW, to me, it seems like NXT, because they recognize that they're going to have viewers that are not familiar, they haven't been watching NXT on the WWE Network. So I think they have done a better job of bringing forward their wrestlers, telling us why we should care about them. I think they've done a little bit better job than AEW. AEW seems to rely heavily on their YouTube series, from Being the Elite to the Road to series to the Nightmare Family stuff. And quite honestly, and maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't feel like everybody that tunes into wrestling on television necessarily watches YouTube. How far off am I on that? Because you're younger than me. By the way, happy belated birthday on top of that.
Oh, I appreciate it. I mean, depending on where you put this on, happy birthday to my mom, Dolores, because today's her birthday.
Oh.
Came right before her.
Happy birthday, Mama Smash.
Like that.
But yeah, how far off am I on that? That, I think relying on the YouTube series might be a bit short-sighted.
I mean, no offense, man, but I mean, like, your age demographic, because, I kind of see, I mean, my dad's a little older than you, but I guess I lumped you guys all in just because you guys are all older than I am. But it sense that I find that a lot of people that are older than me, and I'm that 35 demographic that they're always pining for, or I guess I just aged out of the 18 to 34 demographic, but still young adult nonetheless, I suppose, right? Whatever you want to call it. I think a lot of it is missed opportunity for the older folks because they don't watch YouTube like I watch YouTube. And I know that I don't even watch as much YouTube as somebody that's 10 years younger than I am, because they hardly watch TV because I live with 20-year-olds. And I know for sure that, like, my kid's cousin who plays Fortnite all day, just like some of our pro wrestlers could do if they didn't have to actually wrestle in the ring, they take all of their multimedia interaction strictly from mobile devices like tablets and telephones, as opposed to watching physical television all the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people have large TVs, but they don't necessarily watch them all the time like we used to a couple of decades ago.
Right. See, and that's where...
And some people just never made the transition.
Yeah, it's I say it's a generational thing. Now, and I watch plenty of wrestling content on YouTube, but I'm kind of the outlier because we cover this. It's kind of part of what we need to do. But you're right. My counterparts, we always talk about Chad Hastings because he's the one resident wrestling fan at the Horn. But Chad Hastings doesn't watch YouTube. Even if WWE does something on YouTube, he's not going to see it. And he's close to my age. I'd say we're about 7-8 years apart. So he's kind of in that older demographic, not necessarily into mine, but he's definitely up there. So you also have to take into account, and I know this gets a little socio-economical here on this, but you have to also take into account the plight of millennials or millennials, in the sense that you have to remember we have the lowest earning potential since before the baby boomers, just because of how the economy is kind of shaped up. So a lot of us don't have cable, and a lot of us are looking for free content, essentially.
or, content that we can donate to if we want to see extra that we can afford, just because, some of the luxuries that were once thought a given, something that we were going to be accustomed to the whole time, but not necessarily change socioeconomically as the rest of us progress in age.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Let's talk about what's happened this week, and we'll just hit a couple high spots.
But can I give them credit though, AEW, for doing something that's really important that not everybody understands when it comes to business, and that is identifying their main audience, solidifying with their audience and reaching out to that audience specifically, and keeping that audience entertained, and using one of the best things I've heard is from a friend that I haven't spoken to in a few years. And he just recently told me he got back into wrestling thanks to AEW and one of his friends who made him watch it. He's the perfect age group for what they're trying to reach at. So on all those fronts, they have done a fantastic job. Yeah,
no, I agree. And that's one of the things, we've talked about, the struggles that WWE has been having in the last several months with Raw and SmackDown is the fact that their key demographic isn't the one they're capturing. They're capturing guys like me. They're not capturing the 18 to 34, and AEW is. So that's that, and I think that goes to NXT as well. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite last night as we record this on Thursday morning. Couple of notes. Chris Jericho and Riho both had successful defenses of their championships. Chris Jericho defeating Darby Allin, Riho defeating Britt Baker in a group, both really good matches. We've got the tag title tournament. The semifinals are set. Lucha Brothers defeated Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt. Marco Stunt was filling in for Luchasaurus because Luchasaurus has a thigh bruise. He could not compete. So Lucha Brothers won that one. They will face Private Party next week in Pittsburgh in the semifinals. SCU, Kazarian, Scorpio Sky. It was going to be Christopher Daniels, but the Lucha Brothers attack Christopher Daniels as they're making their entrance, package pile drive him on the ramp. So Daniels had to be stretched out. Luckily, it ended up just being a stinger, so he should be okay. But he ended up being Kazarian, Scorpio Sky, defeating the Best Friends. So they will go next week to face Dark Order, who had a first-round bye from their win at Fight for the Fallen. So, and then this Moxley Pack thing has captured a lot of people. Jon Moxley is set to face Kenny Omega at Full Gear, but he's got this budding rivalry with Pac. They had this tag team match with Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, and Moxley pulls out, or Kenny Omega pulled out the broom with the barbed wire. Moxley gets the baseball bat, but Pac says he doesn't want to use them. And so Moxley hits Paradigm Shift and just walks out, leaves his partner. This is going to get really, this is kind of like the feud before the feud, isn't it?
It's proper build-up. I feel like there's something wrong with me now because the way that you describe it, it's so exciting. But then when I actually watch it, I'm just kind of like, I'm not. Yeah, I'm just like, I've seen all these guys already, multiple times.
Yeah.
And like, I get what Moxley's supposed to be, but I still don't think he's hit that high gear since he's left WWE. For me,
right?
I don't see a difference. I see the same character I saw in Dean Ambrose over here. I don't see any extra edge to him. I don't see anything else that makes him, what should be a focal point of the show yet. And that's where I'm like, maybe WWE, not everybody's correct, but sometimes they're willing to let talent walk if they feel that they're not going to be the strongest asset for them. And they didn't have a problem letting him go afterward. Of course he tried to re-sign him, but they knew that they already lost him. I just haven't been excited about some of the rivalry. I really haven't understood the whole Kenny Omega thing. I know he needs to win, but he comes out and has an unsanctioned bout. And I get that the action's fast paced and hard hitting, but where's the rest of the story?
Yeah. And I think that kind of goes to what we were talking about with AEW they're not showing a lot of that backstory on Dynamite. They're relying on the YouTube series and such, and even then, it hasn't really been. I mean, you almost have to be kind of in the know. You know, if you're not in that know, then yeah, you're kind of left in the dark a little bit. And I agree. It seems a little. There's a disconnect a little bit, and I think AEW could do a better job of that. Let's go to NXT.
And on the same token, though, the problem I have with AEW isn't necessarily the company, but it's a lot of their hardcore fans already. And coming from a sport like soccer, where I already deal with enough people that are adamant niche fans, like, this is our sport, you can't take it from us, we were here first, blah, 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 blah. I get it. But it's all inclusive. And
yes.
Sometimes some of that smart alecky, smart mark takes where it's like, oh, you don't watch this, you don't know. It's really asinine. And it kind of just turns me off on the product before I can even really get invested in it, because those are the fans I'm sharing this experience with. And it seems to be an overwhelming majority of that style fan that likes AEW.
Yeah.
Like, where they will go, they see themselves as part of a team, and that there's no negative. There's nothing that can't be done better. And that's where I take issue, because I'm like, well, no, I'm my harshest critic personally. So therefore I don't feel any remorse for saying when, somebody messed up, or, it just doesn't work for me. It works for you, great, but it doesn't work for me.
I tend to agree. Look, AEW's put out a good product, and the matches are good. There's things they can work on. There's things they need to work on. Character development, character backstories. We need to know why, Moxley and Pac are going at each other. We need to know why. I mean, we know the attack, and this is one of the things where, WWE does it, but they do it to excess. They give us the recaps like ad nauseum. But it seems like AEW has gone the complete opposite and doesn't give us any recaps. They need to find that happy medium where it's enough to figure, oh, yeah, that's why they're fighting, but don't run it into the ground as to why they're fighting. Give it to us a couple times just to remind us, because short attention spans, and like you said, and wrestling, and look, hardcore wrestling fans, look, you and I, we have both voiced our less than stellar appreciation, I guess that's the best way to put it, with hardcore wrestling fans, because we preach every week. Watch what you like to watch, like what you like, watch everything. You can and you can like everything. I like AEW, I like NXT, I like WWE, even when they do stupid stuff like Hell in a Cell. I like New Japan. I like it all. I like wrestling. And it's okay. It's okay to like it all. And it's okay to, I want it all to succeed. I want it all to be good. I know that's impossible, but that's what I want. I don't want to see one go down over the other, because we've had that. We had that in 2001. WCW went down. You saw what happened after that. Almost 20 years of, well, it's WWE or nothing. So.
Yeah. I'm glad that people have a choice, but it's just all like, okay, well, now that I'm watching it, I'm used to a certain style aspect, I guess.
Right.
And that's, part on me. I try to be a little bit more open-minded, just because I know that wrestling has changed, because the competitors have changed and the audience taste has changed, because, I'm also part of that reason why it's changed, because I've seen it firsthand, because the style that I work would not fit in with the way that it would work today. I would be useless, I feel, in a lot of aspects, unless I was willing to take higher risk and implement those on a regular basis into my match planning. I talk like I completely work still, but you see what I'm saying.
Well, but you have ring experience, so you can speak to that. So that, and that's
it's it's nowhere near like I worked with Jay Sirius when I was first starting out a lot, Jazzy J or Jojo Bravo, whatever you like to call him. And he was always talking about strong style before strong style was even popular. That guy's been ahead of his time when it comes to match playing forever. And a lot of guys used to tell him, no, you don't do it that way, it doesn't work. And it turned out that he was the one that was correct. Like, yeah, he just happened to be one of those mega fans that love the other aspects of the sport that AEW is trying to reach. about maybe 10 years too early.
Right. No, I get you. Yeah, a lot of guys. There are a lot of those where they're just ahead of their time, and we, hindsight being 2020 and all, you kind of look back and say, yeah, he was right, wasn't he? Let's go to NXT real quick. Tommaso Ciampa returned to the ring for the first time after his neck surgery and being out for 7 months. Defeated Angel Garza, the former Garza Jr. Did you get a chance to see that match? What did you think of Ciampa getting back in the ring? Did you see ring rust with him?
He didn't really do much.
He didn't, and I think that's I think that was on purpose.
He hit like 2 moves and then it was over.
And I think that was on purpose, quite frankly, because again, this is his first time in the ring since his neck surgery. So I think they are going to do this slow build.
Not only that, it makes him look strong upon his return, which is exactly what you need. So,
right.
For all those people that are always like, WWE booking, blah, 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 blah. No, they got this one right.
Yeah, they did. They want to, and it's a matter of just making sure he's okay. It's just like when you get a wide receiver that is coming off a torn ACL, he gets back on the field, but there's going to be those first few plays where he's kind of like, okay, is this going to work, or is my knee going to go out from under me again? So it makes sense. It makes total sense. We had the rubber match, which they kept calling it, although this is match number 4 since they've been in NXT. Dijakovic, Keith Lee, ended up being a no contest because Roderick Strong interfered. What they had pitted this was the winner would get Roderick Strong next week for the North American title because they laid out Velveteen Dream. Undisputed Era laid out Velveteen Dream in the back. So Dream was not able to compete. So they had this match. You talk about 2 guys that could have 1,000 matches and you probably would never get tired of seeing them. But in the end, Strong comes in, interferes with both of them. The match gets thrown out. So William Regal, which, anytime William Regal invokes the sunshine term, it's serious. He recalled Roderick Strong sunshine in informing him that because of his actions, the match for the North American title next week will now be a triple threat. So it will be Roderick Strong defending against Dominik Dijakovic and the one and only real Keith Lee, Mr. Limitless himself.
You got his name right.
I know. I've been practicing. I still want to say Dominik Dijak, but I've been trying to practice his name. So I would have hopes for this, but I have a feeling they're not going to take the title off Strong just right now, just because he just won it. And I think they want to string this Undisputed Era dominance a few more weeks. So I think it'll be a fine match. I don't see Strong losing the title.
Oh yeah, I don't either anytime soon. It kind of just ruins the whole Undisputed Era look right now. But at the same token, we called this I want to say months ago that they were going to become like the 4 horsemen of NXT, and that's exactly what they turned out to be because they hold all the gold.
Right, absolutely, yeah. This is the invoking the memory of Ric Flair and Barry Windham and Tully and Arn back in the day. It was great to see Tegan Nox return to action with her knee braces. Looks like she may get into the kind of championship picture, trying to take that belt away from Shayna Baszler. Damian Priest defeated Pete Dunne in the main event. I'm a big fan of Damian Priest, who we knew as Punishment Martinez. I think he's got so much potential, and Pete Dunne is so good in the ring. I love watching him in the ring just because he's kind of that no nonsense. He's a cruiserweight, but comes in as a kind of a brawler, but at the same time he's really technical. So kind of a hybrid of all sorts of stuff. My question is, are we going to start seeing Pete Dunne on NXT more and maybe less with NXT UK? You get a sense of that?
I definitely think that's a possibility now. If the money's right, if the contract's right, and if he wants to make the next step in his career, I believe that's where all signs will point. Yes.
Yeah, I think you're right. All in all, look, and I heard someone say this. Look, if NXT was by itself on Wednesday nights, it'd be a fine show, and it is truly an alternative to Raw and SmackDown. I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Obviously, the having it pitted up against AEW does present issues, visual issues, because you've got the NXT arena versus, AEW in an actual arena. So we'll see what goes forward. So far, and I haven't seen the ratings, but the first 2 weeks, AEW, I think it's been 2-1 in TV ratings versus NXT. I'm not sure we will see a change to that, at least not now. But I do think AEW does have some improvement to do. It's like we said, explaining characters, building their characters. I think if they get that, I think the rest of it, it looks good. They've just got to do a better job with the backstories and telling us why we should care about, the Jurassic Express, or, I definitely, the Dark Order, to this day, I still don't know much about them other than they used to be the Super Smash Brothers. But that's all we know. Why do they have minions? Why do they do what they do? Give me a little something about them, because otherwise I'm not going to care about them.
Well, it's kind of like, why should I care about a team like the Best Friends?
There you go. Exactly. No, it makes sense. It makes total sense. So, I
don't know anything about them from the AEW universe, except I'm assuming that they think that all their fans, and this is something that NASCAR should have learned, and they're learning this the hard way. And I will give credit for AEW, because it seems like they're taking this approach, is don't neglect the fan base that got you there. And it really seems that they understand, like, hey, the bulk of our fan base is that dude that goes to all the independent wrestling shows with his friends, probably drags his girlfriend along if she's already into it. And they've already seen Marco Stunt do his thing. They've seen Sammy do his thing. They've seen MJF at multiple places throughout the last couple of years, all do their stuff, Young Bucks, all those guys, right? And they're okay with the fact that, hey, they're going to give me the same exact thing that we've already been accustomed to seeing, but that, now they're on a marketable show, and they already know how the system works. Like, hey, if I want to follow them, I want to follow them on YouTube. I'll listen to their podcast, see what they have to say about what's coming up. And I'll definitely follow them on Twitter, because, who knows what's going to happen next? Like the thing that they had at the Comic-Con, which everybody was salivating over. They're like, oh, this is how you push the storyline. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
But where's the storyline drawn between actual assault in a public place like Conor McGregor, and then when is it a wrestling angle?
Right. Makes sense. Absolutely. All right, Justin, I know it's a work day for you and me, so we're going to get out of here. But thanks for your time. Make sure you follow Justin the Smash Simmons on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at the Smash Simmons. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Stu Myrick. That's STEWMYRICK. You can follow the show on Twitter at SGTWATX. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. We are proud to be the official broadcast partner of the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, and proud to be part of the great lineup you hear every day on the flagship station for the Texas Longhorns and your radio home in Austin for the Dallas Cowboys. We're on the Horn. Catch us Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Central on the Horn, or you can catch us anytime by going to hornfm.com or subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. For Justin, I'm Stu. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time. We will see you at the matches.
Goodbye and good night.